What are the key takeaways which has come from the preliminary report by AAIB? What are the reasons which we are still looking for to understand the mystery of fuel switch? What actually happened and what are now the possible scenarios because of which Air India crash happened? On June 12, AI-171 crashed near Ahmedabad airport, which was supposed to land in London Gatwick. And finally, the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has released its preliminary report about this accident last night. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to understand the key takeaways of this particular incident, which is deadliest air accident that we have seen in the recent history. When we talk about this particular accident, it happened on June 12 when the Air India craft AI-177, which is a Boeing Dreamliner 787 series belonging aircraft, it crashed near the Ahmedabad airport itself. That means it was just airborne for merely 12 seconds. Now the preliminary report has come out and today we will be trying to understand what are the key takeaways have been highlighted, what exactly is the role of fuel switch which has been highlighted, both of the fuel switch related to the engine, both engines were cut off, and what are the possible scenarios that will give an answer that why exactly this particular accident happened. So beginning with this particular accident itself, it happened last month and after almost a month this report has been released. And this particular, if we talk about accident, we have to understand that it has happened on this aircraft Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, and when this accident took place, it not only took lives of the people who were on board except one, but it crashed into a nearby site where the total count of deaths reached to 260. Again reiterating my point, making it the deadliest aircraft accident in the recent history itself. Now that we know this particular incident, let us understand what has been the investigation that has taken place. Now the investigation of this accident was taken up by Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, and this particular agency was established in 2012 under Ministry of Civil Aviation. It is their objective, it is their mandate that they have to investigate aircraft incidents and understand the underlying cause related to it. And the idea is definitely to not assign the blame, but the idea is to understand what went wrong so that in the future that can be taken care of. So accordingly, they recommend systematic safety improvements based on global ICAO standards. Now, the idea of establishment of this particular bureau was to take away the dual role that DGCA takes place. So DGCA was responsible for regulation also and investigation also. So to take away the dual role and make it more focused, AAIB was established and this investigation has been undertaken by this particular bureau itself. Now after a month, the preliminary report has come out and it is expected that a proper report will come out in next 12 to 18 months. Now, in the proceedings, we have also talked about the importance of black box. You will understand when I mention the key takeaway that how the black box has also helped to understand what has unfolded, and black box was later recovered after the accident. You can understand more about the black box and how it helps in solving the aircraft accidents mystery. I have a video for that in the playlist of Flash News. You can go back and watch that. Now the preliminary findings have been released and the focus areas have been if there is a possibility of human errors, the switch design, ergonomics, electrical redundancy, what happened, and aircraft maintenance records were also looked into. Now we will straight away move to the key understanding or key findings that were seen in the preliminary report. So when we talk about this preliminary report, multiple findings have been seen. The first and the most important one to understand the cause of the accident was the fact that it highlighted that both engines that means N1 and N2, there were two engines on this aircraft, both lost their power within 15 seconds of the takeoff. There is also an understanding that from the black box recording that the pilots have also had a conversation that were you the one to switch off the engine or the cut off the fuel switch. The other one has responded, I did not. Other than that, when we talk about RAT, it is basically a small propeller-like device which is used when engines are not working or shut down, so that it can give emergency hydraulic power. Now, it is through the CCTV footage that AAIB has confirmed that yes, RAT was also deployed. Now, we know three major things here, that the engines were shut down within 15 seconds. Second, the fuel switch was moved from run to cut off, and pilots are the ones who did not do it. It is seen from the cockpit voice recorder which was found in the black box itself. Now, the cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder also show that the fuel switches for both engines were in cut-off position. Now, there are two positions for the fuel switches. One is run, the other one is cut-off. So, we get to see that it was in the cut-off position, but from the voice recorder, we know that the pilots were not the one who did that. And this cut-off fuel supply to engines was the reason that the engine had shut down within 15 seconds. So, that means the fuel engine switch was moved from run to cut off, and that was the major reason. Other than that, it was also found that the re-ignition was tried where N2 completely failed. The second engine could not revive, but N1 lightly revived but did not work. Now, these are the key findings that highlight into the fact that there could be some reason because of which it could be human error also, where the pilots did not know what they were doing, but it did clear out the fact that both of the engines were not working and they were at a low elevation where it was not possible that they could have taken a safe emergency landing as well. Furthermore, there has been also a clear highlight in the report that there has been no sabotage activity, there was no weather issue, there was no bird activity because of which that it could have taken place. The fuel has come out clean, so there was no sabotage associated with fuel. Other than the record of the pilots was also checked into making sure that they were properly rested, and their records, flying records, they have also come clean. So, the major understanding as of now is simple, that both of the engines had shut down and the fuel switch for both of the engine were in the cut-off position. Now, we will be trying to understand the fuel switch as well and how it works, but before that, let us look into that why this situation, that the fuel switch itself in the cut-off position is a problematic thing. So, when we talk about this Boeing 787 series, basically all of these are twin engine aircrafts, but they can safely fly on one engine, and failure of two engines at once, that suggests that it is a rare system failure or a mechanical fault or a human error. Because when the aircraft, if you will get into the reading the reports of the recent accidents or otherwise also, you will find that clearly that they are capable on running on single engine, and that has been confirmed by experts, pilots, but both of the engines failing at once, which clearly has been highlighted in the preliminary report that this has happened. That means this is a rare system failure. It could have been caused by a mechanical fault or a human error as well, that we have to see in the final report. Now, the core mystery that lies in front of us, that how was it possible that both fuel control switches moved from the run position to cut-off position during the important time when the major force is required by the aircraft during takeoff, and there are multiple possibilities which have been suggested. For example, it is expected that either of the pilots might have inadvertently triggered it. However, electrical or software fault is also expected, and there might be a design issue in the control ergonomics which were present there. Now, these are the possibilities, and that would be understood only in the coming time. But here becomes an important question for us, that we have to understand that what exactly is a fuel control switch. When we talk about fuel control switch, we have to remember that it is a manual switch which controls the fuel flow to the engine, right? So, if the fuel is moving towards the engine and it has to be shut off, it can be done by this manual switch. If it has to be reconnected, then it can be done by the same switch. Now, it is located at the center pedestal. That means it is a switch that is between two pilots. If this is the pedestal, it is lying at the center between the both pilots, just behind the throttle levers which are present. So, if we have to understand where it is located, we can see it on the image right here. So, these are the position of the pilot just below the throttle lever. These fuel switches are located, and they are responsible for the movement of fuel to the engine. So, if it has to be done, it will be in the run position, and it is moved to the cut-off position only when the landing has been safely done. Now, because we have two engines in this particular aircraft series, both of the engine have their individual dedicated switch. That means one switch for one engine and one switch for another. That means there couldn't have been a possibility where both of the engines were shut off at once. Now, if we talk about the fuel switch itself, it clearly highlights its significance because it is the one which facilitates the supply of the fuel to the engine, and if the engine is not working or it has shut down, then aircraft is definitely in an emergency situation. Now, what exactly are the positions of the fuel switch? There are two very simple positions. First is the run position, when the fuel is being supplied to the engine and it helps in operating the engine normally. The other position is the cut-off position. It is when fuel is cut and engine is shut down. Now, why would we want the engine to shut down? Because there have been multiple cases of engine fire. In such a situation, we do not want that fire to be fueled, and we cut off the supply of the engine in which there is fire. Then the aircraft can move on the singular engine as well, that we have understood, specifically for this particular design. We have twin engines, it can work on a single engine, and if one engine has caught fire, then the airplane can easily run on the second engine. Now, this is the very simple basic reason for which we see the fuel switch cut off usually in the airplanes. Now, it has been made with certain safety designs as well. So, that means it is spring loaded and it is also protected by proper metal guards. It requires proper deliberate upward lift. That means it cannot be triggered randomly, and it has a proper upward lift and pull movement. Other than that, it has been designed to prevent accidental activation during critical flight phases. If we talk about critical flight phases such as landing and takeoff, that is the time when there is maximum workload, not just on the aircraft but on the pilot as well, and we do not want accidental activation. That means moving of the switch from run to cut off. So, it has been designed in such way to prevent that. But then again, we see that it happened, and both of the fuel switches were cut off, because of which the thrust was lost in the airplane, and gradually within seconds it crashed, because it was at such low altitude that there was no scope for safe landing, emergency safe landing at all. Now, this basically tells us the exact problem that is front of us. That means if both switches were in the cut-off position, that means automatically complete engine shut-off had taken place. Even though there were trials of reconnection, That only happened for engine 1 and that also failed later. So there is complete engine shutdown that was seen, because of which loss of thrust and the electrical power which was present. So even RAT could not help. When we talk about ram air turbine, it could not help. And whenever such things happen and it is at low altitude, there is definitely a risk of crash, which seems to have happened in the Air India crash we are talking about. Now, this preliminary report opens a plethora of possible failures in a specific domain where the possibility of failure of both of the engines simultaneously highlights that it could be a accidental pilot error, because it was definitely not a conscious one. We know it from the cockpit voice recorder. Other than that, it could have been an electric or software failure, because the Boeing 787 has redundant power circuit for each switch and each valve, and a simultaneous glitch or any type of short happening there could have triggered fuel shut-off valves. That means in emergency situation, when fuel shut-off valves are triggered, and any glitch could have triggered that particular shut-off. Other than that, we are also looking in front of us design vulnerability. That means there was too much manual control, especially over a critical safety function, and there was no inbuilt override system to prevent dual engine cutoff, especially during mid-flight. And the final possibility seems in front of us, a fire alarm or malfunction. That means if there was a falsely registered engine fire, the crew may have thought that it is important for them to cut off the fuel switch and move it to that particular position to save the aircraft from fire as per the protocol itself. Now, the final report, which comes in next 12 to 18 months, will be able to give us the answers. But that was all from now. Thank you so much.